Some marriages don't end with divorce papers. They end with silence. Two people sitting at the same table, eating dinner, staring at their phones, speaking only when necessary. Maybe this is you right now. Maybe the person you once laughed with every night now feels like a stranger who just happens to share your rent. And the worst part? You remember exactly when things started breaking, but you don't know how to fix them. This is the story of a man who almost lost his marriage without realizing it. Until one small habit, something that took less than 10 minutes every morning, quietly rebuilt what anger, pride, and years of exhaustion had slowly destroyed. But what happened next, nobody expected. At 4:52 a.m. every weekday, Marcus Hill's alarm buzzed across a cracked phone screen. The sound was sharp and cheap, like a mosquito in the dark. Marcus slapped the phone and sat up in the small apartment bedroom on Willow Street in Cleveland. The room smelled faintly of cold pizza and laundry detergent. His steel-toe boots waited near the door. One lace was frayed almost to the thread. Marcus worked as a warehouse forklift driver at a shipping center 10 miles away. 12-hour shifts, concrete floors, endless pallets. Hard work never scared him. What scared him was going home. In the kitchen, the light was already on. Emily stood at the sink with her back turned. Steam rose from a mug of black coffee. They had been married 7 years. Once, mornings were different. They used to talk while brushing their teeth, laugh over burnt toast, play music too loud for that tiny apartment. Now mornings felt like a train station, two people passing through. Marcus grabbed a piece of toast. Emily didn't turn around. Finally, she said quietly, "Your dinner's in the fridge." That was it. Not good morning. Not how did you sleep. Just logistics. Marcus nodded even though she couldn't see it. His biggest flaw had always been pride. He hated admitting when something was wrong. Hated asking questions that might lead to uncomfortable answers. So he stayed quiet. Work, sleep, repeat. But deep down, Marcus carried a heavy motivation he rarely spoke about. 2 years earlier, Emily had lost a pregnancy. After that, something changed between them. Not anger, just distance. And Marcus didn't know how to close it. So he did what many men do when emotions feel too complicated. He worked more hours. One rainy Thursday night, Marcus came home late. The hallway lights flickered as he climbed the apartment stairs. Inside, the living room was dark except for the glow of Emily's laptop. Suitcases sat near the couch. Marcus froze. "Emily?" She closed the laptop slowly. Her eyes were red. "I'm staying with my sister for a while," she said. The words landed like a dropped wrench. Marcus forced a laugh. "For a while?" Emily's voice cracked. "Marcus, we barely talk anymore." Silence filled the apartment. He wanted to argue, to defend himself. Instead, he said the worst possible thing. "I work all day for us." Emily shook her head. "That's the problem." Marcus frowned. "What does that even mean?" Her voice dropped to a whisper. "You work for us, but you stopped showing up with me." The room felt smaller. Emily wiped her eyes. "I feel alone in my own marriage." Marcus stared at the floor. The cracked tile near the fridge suddenly looked very interesting. She grabbed one suitcase. "I'm not asking for perfection," she said quietly. "I just can't keep living like roommates." The door closed, and the silence that followed was louder than any argument. Marcus sat at the kitchen table. Cold pizza in a cardboard box. Emily's coffee mug still in the sink. For the first time in years, he realized something terrifying. Working harder hadn't fixed anything. It had only helped him avoid the truth. The next morning felt different. The apartment was too quiet. Marcus didn't turn on the TV. Instead, he sat at the table staring at the dent in the wood where Emily used to tap her spoon during breakfast. At work that day, his forklift beeped as it reversed across the warehouse floor. But his mind wasn't there. Around lunch break, he sat outside on a stack of pallets with his coworker Luis. Luis noticed the silence. "You look like somebody stole your truck," he said. Marcus sighed. Emily moved out. Luis nodded slowly. "How long?" Marcus shrugged. "Don't know." Luis opened his sandwich. Then he said something simple. When was the last time you actually talked to her? Marcus frowned. We talk. Luis raised an eyebrow. About bills. Marcus didn't answer. Luis wiped his hands. Listen, man. My uncle told me something after his second divorce. Marcus looked up. Luis continued. Most couples don't fall apart from big fights. They fall apart from 10 minutes of silence every day for years. Marcus stared at the warehouse parking lot. Luis leaned forward. Flip that. Marcus blinked. What? 10 minutes of real attention every day for a year. Luis shrugged. That's 60 hours of connection. Marcus did the math. 10 minutes a day. 3,650 minutes a year. Over 60 hours. Luis stood up. Small things build distance, he said. Small things can rebuild it. The next morning at 5 a.m., Marcus sat alone at the kitchen table. The sky outside the window was still dark blue. Streetlights hummed. For the first time in years, he didn't rush to work. Instead, he opened a notebook. Blank page. He wrote 3 words. 10 minutes daily. Marcus finally realized something uncomfortable. He had been waiting for a big solution. A vacation. A dramatic apology. Something huge. But maybe marriages didn't collapse from huge things. Maybe they eroded quietly. And maybe they could be rebuilt the same way. Quietly. That evening Marcus drove to Emily's sister's house. The porch light glowed yellow. His hands shook slightly as he knocked. Emily opened the door. Surprised. What are you doing here? Marcus held up the notebook awkwardly. I just wanted 10 minutes. Emily looked confused. For what? Marcus swallowed. To listen. She hesitated. Finally, she stepped outside onto the porch. Cold air drifted through the street. Marcus sat on the wooden steps. Emily crossed her arms. Okay, 10 minutes. First, nothing came out. Marcus realized how long it had been since he asked real questions. Finally, he said quietly, How have you been feeling, really? Emily's eyes softened slightly. She talked about work, about stress, about how lonely the apartment had started to feel. Marcus didn't interrupt, didn't defend himself, just listened. 10 minutes passed. Emily checked her phone. That's 10. Marcus nodded. Okay. He stood up. Emily frowned. That's it. Marcus shrugged. I said 10 minutes. He left. But 2 days later, when he texted again, Emily didn't respond. 3 days. Nothing. Marcus stared at his phone every night. Maybe Luis was wrong. Maybe it was already too late. He almost quit trying. But Marcus refused to stop. Every morning at dawn, he kept the habit. 5 a.m. Coffee. Notebook. 10 minutes of writing. Questions he wished he had asked earlier. Things he realized about himself. One morning he wrote, I used work to hide from grief. Another morning, I was afraid talking about the miscarriage would break us more. Weeks passed. Marcus also started sending Emily short messages. Not apologies, just presence. Thinking about you today. No need to reply. Sometimes she didn't. But slowly, things shifted. One evening she finally texted back. Coffee tomorrow? Marcus arrived early. The cafe smelled like roasted beans and cinnamon. Emily walked in wearing a gray sweater he hadn't seen before. They sat quietly. Marcus didn't rush. He asked simple questions. Listened. And when 10 minutes passed, he didn't push for more. Over months, the 10 minutes grew. 15. 20. Real conversations returned. Slowly. Carefully. Like rebuilding a cracked bridge plank by plank. 1 year later. Same apartment on Willow Street. Same kitchen table. But the room felt warmer. Sunlight spilled through the window. Marcus stood at the stove burning pancakes again. Emily laughed. You're still terrible at that. Marcus grinned. Tradition. They sat together with coffee. No phones. No rush. Emily tapped the table with her spoon. The same habit from years ago. Marcus opened the old notebook. Every page filled. Emily looked at it. You really wrote every morning? Marcus nodded. 10 minutes. Emily squeezed his hand. You know what's funny? Marcus looked up. What? I almost left for good. Marcus exhaled slowly. I know, she smiled. But you finally showed up. Most people think relationships break because of dramatic moments. But research shows something simpler. Small daily habits shape emotional connection more than rare big gestures. 10 minutes a day may not sound powerful, but 10 minutes daily becomes over 60 hours a year of attention, listening, and presence. Marcus didn't fix his marriage overnight. He rebuilt it in quiet pieces. One dawn, one conversation, one decision repeated every day. So here's something you can do tonight. Before you sleep, write down one small daily habit you will give someone important in your life. Not once, not when convenient. Every day for 30 days. Maybe it's 10 minutes of listening. Maybe it's dinner without phones. Maybe it's a short message that says, I'm here. Now tell me in the comments, what is one habit that could quietly rebuild a relationship in your life? Because sometimes the strongest marriages aren't saved by grand gestures. They're rebuilt by people who finally decide, 10 minutes is enough to start. And maybe this story reached you today for a reason.